Anyway, let's watch another one of fucking Asmongold's videos. This time will be a bit different. I mentioned that Asmongold's mother died in an explosion because Asmongold was fucking stupid enough to buy her cigarettes when she was under heavy machinery that could blow up. Right? I think I can. I don't know where I can find it. Let me just find it in a second. Right. Uh, I think it was around this year or something. I think. I think it's probably around this year when that happens, right? Um, hold on. Let me just do a quick search. There you go. Okay, there you go. That's the one. That's the one. About my mom, right? I mean, it sounds stupid. You'll see why. Yeah, yeah. We'll see, you'll see why. Hold on.
Hey guys, I don't really even know how to begin a video like this. I don't know how to make a video like this. I don't even know where to begin, but I'll do my best because it's important for me to make videos and share my life and at least even document it because it's something that I've always done. And I think that for many of you all who are in, have been, or will be in this situation, it could also help you guys too. Last week my mom passed away, and I'll be honest, I still can't come to terms with it. I still feel like every time I say it, I'm lying. Like, oh, well, she'll be back next week. Gosh, she's just on a trip. She'll be back. I'll go into her room before I go to bed, and I'll look for her to say goodnight to her and wake up and look in her chair where she would sit in and see if she's there. And there's a big part of me that hopes that never stops. And this is probably the worst thing and the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with so far, and I don't know if I'll ever really be the same. And I kind of wanted to share what happened and talk a little bit more about her, and just kind of uh, just talk about it, I guess. So for a little bit of context, I live in Austin, Texas, and I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I moved here when I was like 6 months old, and the rest of my family and pretty much everybody else in my family is in Florida, Georgia, and New York, and a few other states too. And that's pretty much about it. So here in Texas, I've got my mom and my dad. And whenever I was growing up, they were the two most important people in my life. And my parents are divorced, and I lived with my mom. So I spent so much time with her and with only her. And I also want to make one thing just absolutely crystal clear is that um, while this is a huge thing for me because of how much time I spent with my mom, my dad has been the best father that anybody could ever ask for. He's been there for me. He's taught me so many things, and he's been even the things that pissed me off whenever I was a kid that he would do. Now, whenever I'm getting older, I think to myself, well, I'm going to do that probably to my kids too. It was for the best. Fuck. So I don't want to make this in any way, shape, or form that it's not about him too. But my mom, I lived with her, and for the past 10 years, I've taken care of her. I've been, in a way, a caretaker for her. She was 70 years old. She was overweight. She smoked, and she basically lived her life like a college freshman. She sat around getting high and smoking cigarettes and eating fast food, drinking soda, and watching reruns of Ancient Aliens. And to be fair, that's what she wanted to do. And she did exactly what she wanted. And that is a good and also a bad thing. I tried for many years to try to get her to stop smoking and to try to get her to take her diet and her health more seriously. And she would occasionally make a half-hearted measure to do that, but for the most part, she wouldn't. I learned about cigarettes, about how bad they were when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I come home, and I'm like, "Did you know that it can do this, that, and the other thing?" And I was like, "What is going on? Why are you doing this? Why are you smoking these?" And she just it could never really be understood to me why she continued smoking, and I was just so upset, and I tried, and I'll always wonder um, if it was like my fault in a way, because I would buy cigarettes for her. Is it my fault in a way that she is where she is, and what happened because I bought the cigarettes for her? The logical part in my brain tells me that no, it's not, because somebody else would have just bought them for her anyway. But there's still another part of my brain that does feel guilt, and I don't know if that was the right decision or not. Can you really protect a person from himself? It's impossible. And I did try. I didn't. I failed though. And anyway, so smoking for 50 years gives you something called COPD. And my mom got COPD quite a while ago. And over the years, it's just gotten worse. That's the way the disease works. And basically, about like 10 years ago or so, she first went to the hospital for the first time. And she came out with, in a lot of ways, a clean bill of health. And I tried to get her to, like live differently, exercise more, etc. And it didn't really happen. I tried the garden that I've showed you all many times. I planted that garden in the hopes that she would go out and like maybe take care of the plants or something, and that didn't really happen. She just did what she wanted to do, and so the disease got worse, right? And this is kind of the first time she went to the hospital, and the second time, and then there was a long period of time where she didn't, and then she started walking around the house with a cane, and I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you using a cane? Just walk around normally. And it was this childish and stupid thing for me to think, because I knew why. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. And anyway, so this is maybe a few months ago. I don't want to make this video super long. Is that a few months ago she just kind of had really, really bad breathing problems. Like it went kind of from like, it was like 0 to 60, or it was actually like, if you want to talk about her oxygen, it was more like 95 to 60 and 75, something like that. Her oxygen went down very drastically, quite fast. And I remember I was like right here out in this deck, and I called a nurse's hotline, and they said that I needed to call an ambulance for her right away. And I didn't do that because she was just like begging me not to do that. Don't call an ambulance. Don't call an ambulance. Don't do that. And the reason is that her and I, we grew up quite poor, and like not dirt poor. And my dad has always had my back with things for sure, but we did grow up poor. And in the process of that, seeking medical care in the United States is not necessarily the most reasonable prospect. And so anyway, I was able to convince her to go down to the hospital that night, and she was there for 3 or 4 days. And there was a good bit of relief for me, because I was able to just kind of relax a little bit and know that she was in good hands. But I got a call maybe 4 or 5 days afterwards from her, and she was just so adamantly against being in the hospital. She did not want to be in the hospital, that she said that if I didn't come down there and get her, that she was just going to get a taxi and drive home herself. And my mom's always had this, it's been like a streak of just kind of, I'll do whatever I want to do, it doesn't matter what the cost is. And it was like in a way unrealistic, like how could you possibly do that? But this is just what she would say, and I was so worried that she would hurt herself in the process of trying to do that, that I went and I took her home against medical advice. And I, again, another thing that I don't know if it was the right decision or not. I was afraid that she would sabotage herself in some other way, and it just really scared me to even think about that, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I can't know what a person is going to do, and so I just kind of had to make the best decision I could. and I don't know if it was the right one or not. So she went home with an oxygen machine, and she didn't use it for quite a while. And then finally, whenever she started to use it, um, things got better, and then they were just kind of on a slow decline. They just kind of got worse and worse and worse as the days went by, and this was over maybe a 2-week period. And she didn't even use the oxygen machine. I had to call the EMS because we had a doctor's appointment for her, and she just couldn't get out of her chair. And finally, I convinced her to let me call EMS. And I'll tell you something, man. Like, I've never encountered people that were more professional and more intelligent and competent than the people that came in the ambulance and the fire truck to help her both times. I consider myself so very lucky that we had those people and we were able to have it taken care of in such an effective way. Excuse me. And obviously throughout the 10 years, I missed many opportunities and many things that I couldn't really do whenever I was in my 20s because I had to take care of her and do things for her and be there for her. And she would always be she would always say that, oh, it's fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But I knew it wasn't true. And I had to do those things, and I want to make one thing very clear, is that I did every single thing like that with no regret, no resentment, nothing. I would do that again. I'd be doing that right now if she was still in that house. And whenever my dad gets older, I'll be doing that for him. And if I have a wife and she has problems, I'll be doing that for her. That's who I am, and I'll always do everything that I can to help and protect people that I care and I love. And anyway, it was at a cost, though. And so throughout those years, kind of the scope of things that I would do and things that she would do waned. They waned much more over to my side, where I was doing all of the laundry, I was doing all the dishes and everything. And towards the very end, I was just doing everything. I would wake up in the morning, and I would cook dinner for her, or sorry, cook breakfast for her, and then go back to sleep, and then wake up and make sure that she's okay. And
Jesus, this
I could only
drags on
sleep
for
maybe
so
2 hours a
long.
night whenever this was happening. And the first time that she ever really had like a big health scare, this was in like 2012, 2013. And ironically, it's the reason her having this health scare was the reason why I started making YouTube videos, because I had to quit going to school because I couldn't bear to not be there and help her and take care of her. And back then, we didn't have the money to hire a caretaker or a nurse or anything. We didn't even have the money to have hot water. So anyway, that's whenever I started doing YouTube. And I remember waking up and like hearing her screaming my name. And for the next like 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years, it's hard for me to really remember back then. I would not be able to sleep for more than like an hour and a half, 2 hours, without hearing those screams in my head and it waking me up and having to go out and check to see if she's still alive. And this started happening again recently, and I couldn't really get any sleep. I couldn't rest at all. Anytime I would wake up, it would just be immediately a panic attack, and it was just awful. And anyway, so
Yeah, it's kind of awful, but um, is this supposed to garner my sympathy or something? It's weird.
fast forward to, I guess, maybe 3 weeks, no, not 2 weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was out here in this exact chair, sitting in this treehouse, and I was doing a news video about just different stuff that I'd wanted to go online to talk about. And in the process of that, my mom texted me and she asked me to bring her a Pepsi. And I went in to check on her, and she was not doing well. And she was wanting to go to the hospital, within probably the next 24 to 48 hours. And I was glad to hear that, especially with how she had left last time, because that's where I thought she had been to begin with. And I go and I come back and I'm sitting right here in this chair looking at this phone right here and talking, and I just decide I'm just too stressed out. I have to leave and I have to go, and so I leave and I go to lay down, and I'm laying down stressed out, like really worried, and like my room's right next to her room, and just out of nowhere I hear a crash. I hear glass breaking. I look up and I see like lights reflected on like the side of the door, and like it's like going everywhere. I'm like, what's going on? Like, did you get a new light from Amazon? Like, what is this? Because the reason why I wonder that is, I guess I'll tell this story first, and then I'll get into her spending my money on Amazon. Anyway, so I go in, and the floor is on fire. Part of her is on fire, and also the thing that she had connected to her face with her oxygen machine was on fire because she was smoking with the oxygen machine on. And I don't know why you would do that. I don't I, I don't understand it. I don't. Why do you? Why do you? Why do you do that? And there's part of me that's very angry at her. I'm very upset. It didn't have to be like this. There's no reason for it to have been like this. And anyway, so I put out the fire, and it's like a Looney Tunes, like a cartoon, where like there's like a bomb and there's like a fuse, and the fuse is being lit and it's going to the bomb. Well, the bomb was the oxygen machine, and her little tank connector was on fire, and it was literally going towards it. And so I'm like frantically trying to put this out before it reaches the machine and it blows up. And meanwhile, she's on the floor, like, she's just completely in shock, and she has no idea what's going on, really. And I think that mostly just in shock. And the last words that she said to me before they took her to the hospital was, "I'm such an asshole," meaning that she is for doing it. So I think that she did feel like, yeah, I fucked up here, which is like, yeah, you did. And anyway, so I put out the fire, and I'm able to like give her an aloe plant for her face, for her burns all over her face, obviously, which surprisingly were not really that bad. And we had to call the ambulance, which then again she was telling me, don't call the ambulance, don't call the ambulance. And it's like, I see her there, she has burn wounds all over her face, and she can barely breathe, and she was on the oxygen 24/7, and she wanted to go to the hospital anyway. And so I called the ambulance. Again, I don't know if it was the right decision, but out of all these, questionable decisions that I'll think about for the rest of my life, I feel like this is the one that I will think the least about. And anyway, so they take her to the hospital, and I don't get a call until like way later on that day. And I find out that she's in like a ICU for like a burn trauma, and I go to see her in a couple of days because she was on a ventilator at the beginning, and I couldn't really interact with her because she was like sedated. And anyway, so I do all that, and I finally do see her, and the burns on her face were not really that bad. And the truth is that I held out hope that she would pull through this until the last day, man. Until the last fucking day. I was like, oh, things will turn around, things will get better, things will get better. And I thought, well, she got sick pretty fast, and like maybe she'll just get better really fast. And I tried so hard to hold out hope and to believe. And I tried so many different things. Like I would look things up. I would talk to my dad about it for hours every day. I went to, she raised us, not us, me. her and I went to a church. It's a Roman Catholic church. I had communion and everything whenever I was young, and we went to mass every Sunday. And I even went to our old church to,
Yeah. Okay, so let me get this straight. Um, so she was basically smoking a fucking cigarette while she was on an oxygen machine. And because of that, the oxygen machine blew up. And why the hell did she have a cigarette in the fucking first place?
in a way, a caretaker for her, and to try to
What
get
is it?
her to. She continued smoking, and I was just so upset. She is where she is, and what happened happened because I bought the cigarettes for her. The logical part in my brain tells me that no, it's not, because somebody else would have just bought them for her anyway.
But you bought the fucking cigarettes. You bought the. This video is dumb. It's a dumb way to die. A dumb fucking way to die, you know? Fucking letting your mom smoke and then get the oxygen machine blown up and she's on fire. Jesus Christ. This is dumb. This is just fucking dumb. I'm sorry. This might sound a little bit fucking grim or whatever from the way I'm actually saying it, right? But like, it's fucking dumb. I know what you feel about it. It's my mom also passed away from cancer and shit, but like, you know, doing that shit is fucking dumb. It's an incredibly dumb mistake.